Hello, I'm Lori, and this is Grayson. We're from Lanier Flight Center and Pipistrel Aircraft Sales.
Yep. So we're speaking for the Southeast distributorship for Pipistrel. So we are obviously with Lanier Flight Center, and we'll be speaking about Pipistrel today. And obviously, if you guys don't like what we got to say, you don't like Pipistrel, then my name is Troy Wheeler. If you don't like what I got to say, then my name's Troy Wheeler, and if you do, then my name's Grayson.
Okay, so today we're going to. Okay, I can hear myself really well up here. Okay, all right, so we're going to start off by just giving you a quick overview of Lanier Flight Center and Pipistrel Aircraft Sales and how we join together. And then we're going to go through the product itself with the different models of Pipistrel aircraft. And a lot of folks don't know much about them and don't know about their affiliation with Textron either. And then we're going to finalize our talk here with the services and support of Pipistrel aircraft. So, buckle your seatbelt, stow your tray tables, and flight attendants prepare the cabin for departure. Grayson, your flight controls.
All right, so this is obviously who we are. So we started in 2003. Troy founded the flight school, and we've got a fleet of Skyhawks, and we're a Part 141 flight school affiliated with Liberty University. And then we've also got a full-time maintenance department that's an authorized service center for Cessna, Pipistrel, and Beechcraft. And then we also have a 24/7 on-demand Part 135 operation that operates 4 citations. And then in April of 2023, Pipistrel came to us and said that, do you guys want to be a Pipistrel distributor? And I'll get into what the distributorship means a little bit later, but basically they said, do you guys want to sell and distribute these airplanes to flight schools or any individuals around the world or around the Southeast? So we have Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, south side of Texas, and Kentucky. And then there's 2 other distributors in the U.S. market.
Okay, so that leads into our teams, as Grayson was mentioning. So Pipistrel originated in Slovenia 30 years ago. A gentleman named Ivo started in his garage developing hang gliders. I think he had some surveillance he was trying to do at night, hence the Pipistrel is the bat, over in the Russian area at the time. So it went from that to light aircraft to electric aircraft, and so in 2022, April of 2022, Textron purchased Pipistrel. I think they were looking to expand their electric market and get into electric aircraft. So as Grayson mentioned, then Textron approached some former Cessna Pilot Center distributors, Troy Wheeler being one of them. And so now there are 3 distributors in the United States. We have one in the West, that's Elemental Aviation, and then Lincoln Park in the Northeast, and most importantly, Lanier Flight Center in the Southeast United States. And there's also a distributor in Canada and one in Mexico.
So this is the factory in Slovenia, and a little bit of the process of how they end up coming over here in the U.S. They'll obviously manufacture them over there, and then once they come over to the U.S., they'll get put on a ship and shipped to us. They usually take about 30 days to get over to the U.S., and then they come to a port nearby wherever the distributor is. So for us, the port is Savannah, and when it comes to Savannah, then it gets put on a truck or a rail car, and then we assemble it the rest of the way, and a designated airworthiness representative comes to our facility once we put the wings on, once we put it together, and then once it's all registered, then it's basically either an LSA or a Part 23 airplane. And then this is just the overview of their department. I think this is in Slovenia. They also have a factory in Italy as well.
Okay, so this is a quick overview of the product family at Pipistrel. So they started with the light aircraft. We have the Taurus Electro, which is a glider, an electric glider, self-propelled. And then the Virus and the Explorer are both experimental. They're not light sport, they're just light aircraft, two-place aircraft. I'm going to skip over the flight training for a minute and go on to the high performance. We have the Panthera, which is a four-place high performance complex aircraft that is going to eventually compete with Cirrus. We're looking at right now, it's still in the experimental category. It's a very sleek hot rod, very nice aircraft, but it is still in the experimental category. So they are expecting to certify that in the United States in probably hopefully the next year or two. And then Pipistrel also makes a line of special purpose, special mission aircraft, including the Surveyor and the Nuva. But today we're wanting to focus on the flight training line of aircraft that's going to be helpful to flight schools like yourselves and us. And that includes the Cetus, which is a self-propelled motor glider, the Alpha Trainer, which is a light sport airplane category aircraft, and then the Velis Electro, which is the world's first all-electric certified aircraft.
So as Lori mentioned, we were focused on the flight training, and the reason we kind of wanted to focus on flight training is obviously you guys all either own flight schools or affiliated with a flight school, so it only makes sense for us to talk about flight training aircraft. So we've, like Lori said, we've got the Cetus and the Alpha Trainer that we want to focus on, and basically how I wanted to do this presentation is how we operate our flight school and use the Pipistrel aircraft and how it could maybe potentially help you as a flight school or whatnot. So we have the Cetus and the Alpha Trainer. Obviously the Cetus is a glider, but we'll talk about in a second how the glider and the Alpha Trainer can be used incoherently with one another and obviously effectively and efficiently.
Okay, so the one that I am most passionate about, and I think we both really are, is the Cetus. It's our motor glider. It's a two-seat, certified as a motor glider. It is very versatile. It goes fairly fast, 100 knots, with a max range of 770 nautical miles. And it's just a really good aircraft for training as well as just cruising around if that's what you want to do. And it also has a ballistic air parachute, not because it has to, but because it's just an added feature. It can be certified without it. You can get it without it if you want. So it has excellent performance at 2.5 gallons per hour of fuel when the engine is running. You do have the option of turning it off and gliding, and then of course it gets really good gas mileage. So it does have some great safety features, the Kevlar fiber structure, and it has really good glide range with the long wing tips. It's 27-1. Short, you can take them off and put on the short wing tips. It's 23-1, and has outstanding visibility. That's one of my favorite features about it. You can see out of it really well. The doors are completely glass, so you can look and see everything down below. You can take really great pictures. Has a little sliding window in it, so you can stick your camera out of the window and get even better pictures. And it's really nice. And then it's really cool to get up in the air and see your glide ring. The glide ring on the display, you don't even see it. It's so far out that you can't even see it. It's off the screen. So, and it has the latest Garmin avionics. These are some pictures of the motor glider. You can see in the picture that there's a tail wheel version. We also have the tricycle gear, which we use most often. And it comes with good nice options, leather seats. It's comfortable, has lumbar support. It's got the stick in the middle, and you can see the Garmin avionics package there.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing to highlight too is it's a glider, but it's got an autopilot. So it's everybody says, well, it's a glider. Well, yeah, it is a glider, but it has an autopilot because you can fly it like an airplane. So, and you don't have to have a medical to fly a glider. So that's just another point to make.
That's why it goes back to being a very versatile aircraft, cruising aircraft, because you can do that as well.
So the other one is the Alpha Trainer. Obviously, the Alpha Trainer, as some people may know, but it's got an 80 horsepower Rotax in it. Like Lori said, it's very glider oriented. So the company was originally started off of gliders. So the glide ratio is very good compared to any of other generic aircraft. So it's got a 912 80 horsepower engine in it. It burns 3.6 gallons an hour roughly. It's 13 gallons to top it off, and you can put two 200-pound guys in it, and you still be under gross weight. So it's very versatile in that aspect. Cruising altitude is about 104, 324 nautical miles. Same thing, it's got a parachute. So all the Pipistrel fleet has parachutes. They don't require them to have a parachute, but they do have a parachute for safety. So it is a certified light sport, but you can train and check IFR. So you can fly it for your instrument rating. So you can go all the way from private all the way up to your CFII in this aircraft, but you can train and check IFR. You can't fly IFR because it's obviously a light sport aircraft. So it's got a full Garmin avionics package as well. Let's see. So this picture back here best resonates how the panel is, but all the panels come this way. They're all generic. So G3X Touch, you have your a Garmin GPS, 2 sets of radios, a Garmin autopilot, and they all come the exact same way. So kind of standard like the 172s are if you want to talk about that.
Okay, so why glider training? We have just started this in our school in Georgia, and it's going over really well. We're finding that glider training is really good for very foundational skills. It's a great place to start. You can start earlier since you can solo at 14 and earn your certificate at 16. So we have kids coming in, and we can get them started earlier, and those hours that they're building can count towards their private add-on later. It's very cost effective, as we mentioned before. It's great gas mileage, the maintenance is minimal, and there's just a lot of cost effectiveness for the flight school owner as well as the student. They can get through it a lot cheaper, so there's a lot of appeal there. It's also safety focused. Like I was saying before, the glide range is a really neat thing. As a mom, whenever I talk to other parents that are about to enroll their kids in flight training, it's really nice to be able to say and feel good about, okay, I'm fixing to put this kid in this cockpit and know that they're going to be safe. If you have any kind of an engine problem or anything like that, it's got such a good glide ratio that you're really not out of range of any airport at any time, especially where we are. Maybe in the West, that might be a little bit different issue, but you would always have a good place to land. And they do land on grass, by the way. I've had that question a lot. Can they, maybe they look like they're a little bit fragile, but they're not. They were born on grass. So yes, they can take off and land in grass. And they're they're good for the ecosystem. They're eco-friendly. They have updated avionics, and as we had mentioned before, they're also very versatile.
All right, so that being said, here's kind of the requirements to get your glider rating. You know, basically how I'd like to tailor it, or like to tell people how we tailor it is, you start them early. They get their glider license at 16. You can start them in the airplane training at 14. They can solo at 14, and then after that, you transfer them right over from the CNIS into the Alpha Trainer, and they can, like I said, get their ratings all the way up from private to CFII in this specific airplane. And then the same thing with the CNIS. The glider training helps obviously if you can't get a medical or whatever, you can get your private pilot glider. Or if you wanted to use your glider rating all the way up to your glider CFI, all this time counts towards that.
Okay, so we're proposing a different private pilot syllabus that starts in the glider. You do your start your hours there, go to your check ride, which is a really simple and fairly easy check ride. The aircraft itself is simple, so getting started in there is starting at a foundational layer, and then you can add layers of complexity, and it doesn't make it as stressful for the student. Personally, my glider check ride was the most fun and the easiest one to do, and it would have been nice to have started there and then went on to private. So you can do it at a lower cost. You're teaching your students to keep their eyes outside. They're not worried as much about the avionics. Yes, there's all of that's there, but it's kind of a simplified version of what you might see in a 172 with your G1000 and all of that. So you can get in learning to land in one with the engine out. We have a friend who has one, and he said he lost his engine in his airplane, but it was a non-event for him. He was a glider pilot. He was used to landing without an engine, and every landing is an engine out landing. So it's great to start there. You learn your energy management, learn even like when you're stalling, you learn to push. You don't have any power to rely on, so you have to push in order to recover from that stall. And you're just learning some good foundational skills there. And then it makes it an easier transition into, like Grayson said, the alpha trainer. And then once they get into that, they can focus on their nighttime, their instrument training, and they'll just have better overall confidence once they get into the aircraft. And makes that check ride a little bit easier as well.
So, like we were talking about, the better progression. So 10 hours private pilot glider, then you go 40 hours approximately in the private aircraft single engine land. Less than 25 glider hours for the commercial CFI G, and then less than 50 cross-country PSC hours for the instrument rating. And then only 10 of the 50 cross-country PSC hours requires an ASCL, and then 250 plus hours you get your commercial ASCL, and then commercial AMEL, and so on after that. But obviously, like we keep going back to, is the progression. So between the Cetus and the glider, or in the alpha, you go from the Cetus to the alpha. There's no really difference in the cockpit. There is a little bit because obviously you've got different mechanisms and whatnot, but it's an easy progression from one aircraft to another.
Okay, so once again, easy transition from private to commercial to glider CFI. I am not a CFI yet, planning on getting my CFI G, and I think that's going to be a little bit easier transition for me to start there and then add on the CFI later. So that's kind of what we're proposing that maybe you think about and adopt in your training program, just to make it a little more cost effective for your students and yourself, and also to get students started younger and to get them through a little bit easier.
So some people ask, and a lot of people ask, what's the service and support like? There was before Textron purchased the company, there was a lot of questions of why am I not getting the service that I need, blah blah blah. The Textron has completely taken this over. It's completely changed. All of the parts, every distributor carries a certain amount of parts at their facility. And then they've also, this is new to us and recent news, all of the parts that they have over in Slovenia is coming to Wichita, and there will be a storehouse in Wichita, and then they will get distributed to the distributors and then to the owner or flight school that needs the parts immediately. Making a really smooth transition for anybody that operates a fleet of these aircraft, because in the past that was an issue, and it is no longer. So parts are easily available in the U.S. There's a mobile team that is being assembled for all the areas in the U.S. We currently have a support a support repair team down in Florida right now, and he travels all over the U.S. actually. That anybody needs specific needs. So you're definitely going to get the support that you see with Textron or any other Cessna Beechcraft product.
Grayson, can I add something
Yep.
to that? We have weekly meetings as well with the repair and the engineering team in Slovenia. So they're getting weekly feedback from owners, directly from us, our maintenance facilities, the other distributors as well, on any issues that are going on with any of the aircraft. So it's constant that they're working on continuous improvement in their process and make sure that everything's working correctly and we're getting the support that we need as well.
So yeah, with that, thank you guys, and if you have
Yeah, thank you. And any questions?
Price points, retail price points,
for the Alpha Trainer.
each one of the three, through the Velis Electra.
So the Velis Electra is I think we're telling people about 240, 250. So the Cenis is probably going to be 230, 240 range, and then the Alpha Trainer right now is going for 175 out the door for the end of this year, and then after 2024 it'll be 185. Yeah, so David Catton has one, and then Mesa Airlines has a bunch of them, and then let's see, you got any that
We have one.
Yeah, we have one obviously, and there's a couple over. They're not our distributor or our distributorship, so I can't speak for them. But there's several in the Northeast, and then there's also several in the West Coast that I don't know about just because we don't operate in that area.
I know there's one also in South Carolina that's real happy with theirs. Kavu. I haven't gotten a chance to talk to them, but
Well, say that one more time. Sorry. So it would be different. So it would be either us as we're the distributor, so we're the sales rep for Pipistrel. So it wouldn't be through Cessna or Beechcraft. It would be through Pipistrel. So it's under a different. Yeah, Lincoln Park. Sorry.
The time to get one. Question: the one machine is certificated as a self-launching glider, right?
Yes.
correct.
It's a self-launching glider. Okay.
Motor
If
glider.
a person gets a glider certificate in that, a young person, now they want a private pilot airplane or airplane certificate, you can't use the self-flying. You have to move to the other vehicle, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's my question.
Yeah, it's not. It's not
And
a.
also, do you have a tail at Pompano Air Park here a couple of weeks ago on a check ride? I'm pretty sure I saw an airplane that looked like a Pipistrel with a tail wheel. Do you have
The
airplane
Cenis can either be configured as a tail dragger or a nose configuration. Same with the Veers as well. Yeah.
Okay.
You asked when you could get one. So Alpha Trainer you could get tomorrow, and a Cenis you could get tomorrow. Yep.
What about offering a training center for our mechanics to come? If we bought a couple of them, we'd want to send our mechanics to be
Absolutely.
trained to where we could do the maintenance
Yep.
ourselves.
And absolutely, we can easily work that out with Textron and ourselves to send somebody to you guys to make sure you guys are fully trained. We have somebody that is he's employed by Textron eAviation, so he goes around to all of the people that own them or have problems with them that would be a specific problem, and he can make sure that you guys are fully trained on how you're operating.
I don't know how to quite phrase this, but are they recognized by the Cessna pilot chain as the Cessna aircraft?
So Textron eAviation is a separate company from Textron. So the Textron eAviation falls under Pipistrel, and then Textron falls under Cessna Beechcraft from there on. So it's a little different, not the same. That's kind of how they tell it to us, so I'm telling it to you that way. Yeah. Yes, that's that. I can argue with that with Shane, but Shane would tell me yes.
With the DPE shortage you're having, how difficult is it for you guys to get a glider check ride?
That is a very good question.
I didn't had less trouble getting a glider check ride than an airplane check ride. It is true that there are less DPEs for glider. However, there are less folks taking glider check rides. So there's a DPE in South Carolina. He does travel. He came to us.
Franklin Burbank.
Yes, and he was really great. I think he told
loves
me
the idea.
Yeah, I think he told me he does a third of the check rides in the nation. So there is a need for more glider DPEs as well. No doubt about that. But we didn't have any issue at all getting a glider check ride.
Yeah, curious with Mosaic coming around the corner, what is Pipistrel doing looking at the future with that expansion?
Right. So when Mosaic comes into play, which we're hoping on, because there's two other aircraft that we could speak highly on that we didn't because Mosaic isn't. So there's an Explorer, which is a 100 horsepower carbureted engine, and then a Virus, which is 100 horsepower IS or turbo normalized that you can get. And they're experimental right now because of Mosaic. So once the Mosaic comes into play, there's even more options. Yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned the IFR training that you're able to do now. For everyone in the room, one of the things, I sit on the executive committee for ASTM. We have just balloted for initial ballot within ASTM for IFR flight into IMC for special light sport aircraft.
Yeah, that would be huge.
So we're trying to time it when Mosaic comes out that you'll be able to fly IMC in these aircraft. That's the goal.
That's great news.
For the glider version, the Sinus, when you turn off the motor or the engine, does the Hobbs meter keep running?
Great question.
Yeah, actually, there is no Hobbs meter in it, so we've had to try to figure that out, to just put a kitchen timer in there and do it that way, because for flight school owners, it is a significant issue because
this is something that we bring up in our weekly meetings, like, hey, put something in the aircraft that ticks all the dang time, because it obviously for a flight school it doesn't make any sense at all not to do that.
What we've put into our aircraft to help extend the time between mandated maintenance events is a system called the Peregrine system. Works off of your airspeed indicator, and it's a 30-knot switch. And that's what activates our maintenance meter and gives us about 11% more time between mandated events like engine overhauls. So that might be a good application if you don't have something like it.
What was that called again?
Peregrine.
Peregrine. Okay.
Thank you.
When you turn the engine off for the glider portion, does it feather?
Yeah, so whenever you turn the engine off, it doesn't feather right away. You turn the engine off with the key, and then there's a knob in the center of the cockpit that you pull and then turn counterclockwise or clockwise, and it feathers the prop. Yeah. Yeah, completely feathers it. Yeah. For glider, for private glider training, commercial glider, CFI glider, and then you'd go to the Alpha Trainer, which is because it's a certified glider. It's not a airplane.
You get a glider rating, and then you add on your private, which is simpler, less hours.
Anybody else?
I just want to say that what you said about foundational skills, I really did like that. I mean, our people are learning the G1000 and they're not looking outside. So the one thing that you said that got my attention was that, because if we had the primary training in a vehicle that they didn't have power, for one, but they always depend too much on the power, and the other thing is they always look inside too much. So thanks for sharing that.
Yes, you're welcome. Yeah, the glider training is really a neat experience. It's a little counterintuitive, but when you first reach over and turn the ignition off on purpose, as you're taught not that you don't want to do that. You don't want to purposely lose an engine, but everything goes quiet, and it's just a very surreal and it's a peaceful moment. And but it, like I said, as a mom, it's very it's comforting to me to know that well, actually, whenever I get back into an airplane after being in the glider and knowing that I can just kind of glide forever, and I look at the little glide ring that has shrunk on ForeFlight when I'm, in any other kind of aircraft, it's a little scary.
Anyway, thank you guys.
Yep, one more.
Yep.
This is actually for the Kings, because I know they were involved with the ACS process. This is for John and Martha. I know you guys were involved in the ACS. Did you guys ever talk about primary training? And I'm a glider pilot as well. That it should be mandatory to get your private or something like that, and to get a certain amount of glider hours or something like that. Was that ever discussed? I'm just curious.
I don't recall it.
Okay. All right. I'm just curious if there was any movement in that direction.
Thank you, King Schools.
Yes.
Thank you, Brian, John, and Martha, and for allowing us to stand here and present our product today.
Yep. Thank you.